What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics. Thank you for joining us for episode 59 of the Comic Book Conservator's live show. We've already got people milling about. We got a special show. We got a special guest. And I'm pumped. How about you guys?
Good.
Ready to go.
Barry as our guest.
Nice.
We'll say hi to you first. How are you? How's your week been?
Great. Actually, Memorial Day holiday, my 25th wedding anniversary.
Nice.
Yeah, a story of survival and opportunity. So, yeah, it's been wonderful. How about you?
That's great. I had a great week. For those that don't know Barry, I met Barry about a year and a half ago and really got along well with him. Thought he was doing a lot of really interesting things, and we've stayed in touch. And Barry actually was a great contributor to this book. He was one of the really thoughtful editors who gave us some amazing feedback that made the book better. And Shelby and I really appreciated that. Among other things, we've chatted about a lot of conservation in the last year and a half and a lot of other things in the comic hobby. So I'm super excited to introduce you to the rest of the crew here and to learn about what you're trying to do, what you're going to do at heroescon this year. But before we get to that, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and then we'll say hi to Phil, and then we'll kind of move on to our A segment.
Okay, great. Well, it's in our name. So comicpresser.com is where people can find us, and trying to be a brand that's memorable. And otherwise, they can find us active in the community. So they'll find us. They're blessed to have us find us on your show, and soon they can find us at the Charlotte Convention Center, June 19th through 20th through 22nd, heroescon in Charlotte.
Yeah, how many cons do you do in a year, Barry?
I've gone to some shows. I don't really call them cons. There are some other things like the Collector Summit where I've met people like you and people like you. And no,
nobody's like me. Come on.
No, but heroescon is something special.
Yeah.
And we're in Atlanta. We're based in Atlanta, so it's close by. It does not have the cost basis of some cities in Charlotte. So the San Diego Comic-Con, the New York Comic-Con, Dallas Fan Expo, which is going on right now. Things like that. It's nothing with Charlotte. It's lovely. But anyway, the Charlotte Convention Center is a special place surrounded by hotels and restaurants. It's a very nice place. It's a straight drive from Atlanta, and it is the biggest place I've ever seen that has pretty much only vintage comics in it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it some more. So let's put a pin in that. Phil, how are you? Welcome to the show. Glad to see you. Happy you're here. How was your week?
Hey. Co-hosting as mostly always. Coming live from the Brooklyn and Queens border here in New York City, and just as always, just drowning in comics and in art. Just been busy doing that. Excited as always for the show. This is always kind of just a nice kind of step away while it's.
That's our.
My hobby is also comics too. So while it's work, it's also fun. So I always look forward to stepping back and doing this.
We always have fun on the show. And people ask me afterward, how'd the show go? First answer is always, I had fun.
Yeah.
We had fun. And then I say, well, we had a lot of viewers today. We had fewer viewers today. We had an exciting topic, that sort of thing. But let's say hi. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. I think I may have put a comment in the wrong place because I thought I posted my thanks to this week's sponsors.
Oh, that's right.
I know You Pluck My Last Nerve was one of them. Collecting Chaos. I think maybe I can do it from memory. Collecting Chaos, You Pluck My Last Nerve, Sales Boy Comics, and Jason Adrift That's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go back and check right now. You guys fill in airtime for just a minute because this is important and I've got to run back and grab it.
I'm sorry, Paul, what are you fetching?
Just our thanks for this week's sponsors.
Gotcha.
So just fill airtime, please.
Hey, Barry, I like that that classic rack next to you that you got. You don't see those spinner racks not too often.
Thank you. Yeah, it's part of the furniture. So, yeah, I'll talk today about some of the things I like, and these are either practice books or overflow books or whatever. But I mean, just want to grab something nice. I'm trying to get for the camera, interesting, whatever. You can pull it up, but I have a few other books I'll show you that not even the rack's not worthy for them. But
gotcha.
Yeah, it's nice to have it within reach.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for filling time. I was correct. I recalled them correctly. So your sponsors of this show are Collecting Chaos, You Pluck My Last Nerve, Salesboy Comics, and The Archivist Adrift, our buddy Jason. So thank you to all of them. Give them a thanks. Give the show a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. And with that sort of housekeeping out of the way, let's say hi to folks. There's the aforementioned Collecting Chaos. Glad to have you here tonight. Ben Stewart, as usual. Our other sponsor, You Plucked My Last Nerve. Hugo Danner, my buddy. Mike, what's up? I learned it's Morris Devereaux, not Maurice, as I said for about a year and a half. Don Carter, welcome to the show, Morris. Rob is here. Rick Nestor's here. Friend of the show, Kat. Unbothered Kitty is here. Welcome. Nice to see you in the chat. Immaculate Comics says, hello, gentlemen.
Hey.
Also, Dr. Paul. Thank you, Rick. Love you, too. The Professor, Peter Alachi's here. It is true. I'm not much of a gentleman. Chris Trump, good to see you here. Gorilla Monkey 3000 is here. Our other sponsor, Salesboy Comics, is here. Welcome. Keep it moist, my man. And he's done a super chat for today. So next episode will be on Salesboy Comics. Thank you so much. He says, did you know that I am #1 supplier of Fromunder cheese in all of North America? I did not know that. At one point, I was like the biggest distributor of Metrex in the Midwest. Well, myself and a few other folks that worked together on it. So that's my claim to fame. That was way before it blew up and you could buy it in Target. Vulu's also here and John Vetch is here. Welcome, everyone. Glad to have a full house. So, Barry, why don't we get started? We have 2 segments like we normally have, and just like we normally do, we're going to do an origin story when we have someone new on the show. I'm super excited about this because, as I said, I've known you for about a year and a half, but some of the things that come out in the origin story I didn't know, and they're super interesting and fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, our B segment is what we sort of teased in the title, which is let's give people just the elevator pitch for what you are trying to accomplish at heroescon. And just as a teaser for the B segment, then we'll jump into the origin story. Go ahead.
Okay. Are we any visual aids, Paul? How would you?
No,
like
just the elevator pitch, just for those that are deciding if they're going to stick around for A or B or come back. It's a teaser.
Oh, okay. Let me tease you. So basically, nobody since Matt Nelson has done on-site pressing at a comic convention since that at a scale, and since that time, many things have changed. And he paved the way for his company, paved the way for acceptance of pressing, and I assume it had something to do with exposure and acceptance at shows, among other places. Now, all these years later, Matt and team are leading CGC, frankly, at the dawn of a giant split in comic grading, because I expect that at San Diego Comic-Con PSA, we'll start collecting comics for grading 1 year after they announced it. So there'll be 2 grading companies, not only taking grading, but potentially grading at shows on site. And so CGC started last year to grade comic books on site at heroescon, which had not happened for many years prior, though they had done it before. But they are not doing pressing at the show. Mm-hmm. Last year, we were at the show, and many people asked us, why are you pressing? Do you press here? can I get my book pressed? And we were like, no, you can't. No, I'm an entrepreneur and a sales-minded individual. And so I do say no. I say no a bunch, but usually I'm saying no to things that are in my way. I'm usually not saying no. I'm not saying no to get in people's way. So anyway, I had to say no to people a lot at a show where you're trying to make new relationships. So I was like, maybe we don't want to do that next year.
Sure.
So I've been working really since that time to try to create an offering that was scalable, transferable, and reliable enough to be able to give some people some press books, some of the days of heroescon, so they can get some of them graded on site or some of them graded shortly after, but have at least their favorite artist sign it. Because one other thing about heroescon is it is one of the best shows in the world to bring the most important living artists, writers, producers of comics together in one place at one time. And so with all those stars and celebrities there, there are other celebrities at the show, but it is not actually a celebrity rich show like many other shows are.
Right.
It is mostly an industry
about creators.
Celebrity
Yeah,
show.
about creators.
Not only, but yeah. And because of that, having a flat press, clean comic to get signed right then and there is really important to people. And even if it's not pressed and then they get it signed, they can leave it with us, if you will. They have someplace to put it. And they may miss the nuance of on-site grading, but the reality is it's actually cheaper to grade the book not on site. So as long as you got it pressed and signed and you knew you were going to get a better grade than if you hadn't done it, maybe you'd still be willing to wait a little bit longer.
So we're going to talk more about that in detail in the B segment, but let's jump into, before we get to the A. Wow, we have just blown up. I'm humbled and really appreciative. We have
there's a whole bunch of super chats.
Yeah, we have Don Carter, we have Collecting Chaos, and we have Immaculate Comics. Thank you guys so much. I have 3 comics in my freezer until I get some new filters for my mask. Oh, mold.
For a second, I was like, why do you got them in there?
Yeah. I'm going to keep it clean, so I'm not reading all your comments, Sales Boy, even when you throw me $2. But you can keep it going for the chat.
Damn.
All right. I told you my mom watches the show. Barry, this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Actually, so Paul, if you'll start on the cover slide for just 1 minute.
Sure.
What happened? I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are. This is, by the way, this is all at Paul's prompting. Thank you. I wouldn't have known what to say or in what order to say anything other than to answer questions without this guidance. But Paul asked about our origin story, I'll go back to the log cabin and walking 6 miles to school and all that stuff. But the point is that last year we were able to start hitting 9.8s on Silver Age books. And once we were able to get 9.8s multiple times, or highest graded in the world, or as in recently in the Heritage featured auction in the beginning of April, multiple world record prices on books in lots submitted after our work, then we had the confidence to continue to scale and offer what we do. And so I'll talk about what we do, what we picked up, and what's going on, because I'm certainly no smarter than the people in this call, much less the people in this industry. And so we're grateful for all that has come before us to do it, but we have been able to apply things enough to get 9.8s when we try on hard books. And so that has been the catalyst in doing it in such a way that's repeatable. And that's been the catalyst also for trying to do what we do. So that's why the reason we're on the front cover. That's
some really great results. And when there's 0 9/8s and you get a 9.6 and you get that top pop. I just learned about that in the last year. Top pop means you have the top one in the population at the CGC census, even if it's not a 9.8.
Top of the pop.
It's fun. It's fun to chase those. I think I have 5 top pops. None of them are big keys to be fair, but they're fun.
Website called Highest Graded that tracks what we know to be top population books we've gotten. We actually have fallen in with a couple of foreign comic collectors, so we're doing pretty well recently with a lot of top pops of Marvel keys or horror keys from other countries.
Sure. Awesome. Next slide.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. So Paul asked me, well, what comics influenced you? Like, what did you like? Did you like comics? Did I like comics growing up? Yeah, I like comics growing up. How much did I like them? You'll see. But what I really liked was art. I went to art school. I have an art background. I really couldn't do much else. So, but Neil Adams, Bernie Wrightson, John Byrne, Frank Miller, was what I liked. And that's why I was able to pick up a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 when it came out, off the rack, because at that time, and those who were there know, if you're on this call or watching, but I mean, it really captured the zeitgeist, right? I mean, the overload of mutant stuff on the Byrne side, and the overload of ninjas and martial arts from Frank Miller's interpretations and things like that. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a spoof of, it was the first satire of modern pop culture that a kid could appreciate from my kid's point of view.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa. Yeah, anyway, so these are the art, and still to this day, I mean, these are the folks I chase.
It was an homage too, because Eastman and Laird were huge fans of all this stuff, right? I mean, this was Kirby and Miller and Byrne were like major influences on them, and so it was a loving homage as much as it was a spoof, right? It was really cool.
And what I liked about these, is that they weren't Jack Kirby. I did not understand Jack Kirby's work when I was younger. I did not understand Stan Lee's writing when I was younger. I did not appreciate a Thor book was like so tedious for me to get through. I mean, it was tons
agreed.
Of work.
Yeah.
And a like the Black Panther, newer series with the heavy, blocky, King Solomon's Frog type stuff.
His later work, I don't think was quite as dynamic as the earlier work. And that's what we were exposed to when we were young, is the end of Jack Kirby's career, right?
He's kind of like he's like Salvador Dali without all the nudity. So I mean, you can look at a retrospective of Dali's work over the years. It gets exhausting. I mean, he's so talented in the beginning, and then over time, he goes in so many different directions, and then it's just so prolific, but down a path only he really truly could appreciate. You have to really love him to love his work as you get to later Salvador Dali years. And I feel the same way for some of the Jack Kirby stuff. His whatever, his Fourth World or his all that stuff. He tried so hard that you could really see him trying. Yeah. And that just hit me differently than Neil Adams, who you could absolutely see trying. He tried every single, from dynamic perspective to crazy layouts to breaking the grid and all these things he did, I mean, as well as, photorealism and a montage. And I'm just saying, like, there was Neil Adams didn't keep the mojo going either all his years, but when they had it, you could see the trying, and you were like, couldn't believe it. You celebrated it. Later on, you saw the trying, and you're like, that's a lot.
And is Perez missing here just because he hadn't really broken on the scene yet?
Actually, so if you look right behind me, this is a T-shirt showing the Justice League, and it is signed by George Perez.
Oh yeah.
So actually, he's right here in the picture. Before he passed away, he came down to Atlanta at a show, signed everything for free, no problems, whatever he gave. So anyway, this T-shirt is signed by Perez. So yes, absolutely, he was there. But he came, the new Teen Titans and DC Comics Presents 26 and all that stuff was still kind of after I had gotten most of these.
Right. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, he's only missing because he wasn't quite on the scene just yet.
But
he'd done a few covers.
He wasn't a man in full. So he was doing Avengers, and he was doing a little bit, just like you just couldn't quite see it come together yet. But
Yep, absolutely.
Teen Titans really exploded. I loved it.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll speak to that in a minute in the next photos.
All right. Shall we go?
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, this is odd. I would never ever show this to public or whatever, but I have my mom's relocated this. She's like, I'm gonna chuck it, or you can take it. So this is actually, I'm Jewish. This was from my bar mitzvah. This was my bar mitzvah caricature. It says at the bottom bar mitzvah, but you'll see Starfire and Raven in the lower corner there. So you'll see the Teen Titans. You can, if the astute people on the call might actually know the books from which the swipe came from. It says right there, it's a 1982 event. So 81, 82 is when these things were out. But I've been a comics fan for a while, but I didn't really do much with it for quite a long time. I got bored with it. I didn't like, I said before, but I mean, heroes got mullets. I couldn't stand that. I could not stand the 90s styles, thin headbands and curly long hair and crazy puffy shoulders and all kinds of other silly stuff. It was just, everything went to Baxter paper and it just didn't have the same newsprint feel. So yeah. And even now in my collecting, not my collecting, call it my appreciation focus. It's really for things that are older than my reading stopped, not really newer, though. It's amazing the quality of painting now that can be regularly put out panel by panel. Well, I remember when Jim Starlin's painted Dreadstar stuff came out. It was like a miracle to me. I had no idea how they pulled it off.
Yeah.
And things like that. But anyway, I've been a comics fan for a while. So those who question my commitment, I can tell you that over time, the people, because I'm new to this industry, if you will, in terms of what I'm doing in it and my transition. But there were people who were not so kind to me when we started. Not many, but who doubted our commitment or whatever. But my point is that actually it goes way back. So I loved it. That I was about, but I'm really about the art. When I'm holding next to Wolverine's mask, there is a paintbrush, very tiny one. So, but I mean, that ultimately was what happened. Was I ended up going to art school to become a graphic designer and focus on printing and packaging and brand identity and corporate branding and things like that, and some advertising. So
came from here.
I learned, I was passionate about comics. I wanted to do it. I learned very quickly I was no good at comics. The commitment you need and the talent you need to draw comic books and to draw every other thing in it, every background, every detail, every nuance, every crawling little tarantula on a chain, every rat jumping off of a beaker, whatever, every snake wrapped around some bronze lamp in the background, whatever these things are, right? Yeah, I had no desire to actually work hard enough
it's
to
bananas,
put them in there.
Isn't it? It's bananas. Yeah.
That's right. But again, the admiration for Wrightson and Ams Buscema, people like that, Alfredo Alcala, folks who really, really, put the stuff in, and even going back in the 50s and from Lou Fine, L.B. Cole, all that stuff.
Sure.
Really something.
Alex.
I have envy and admiration at the same time.
Absolutely.
For these people.
So, what age here?
13.
13 to.
So this is in my 20s. So this is like I was when I started out, when I graduated college, I became a licensed sportswear designer, and we had licenses to all the pro teams, MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL, and we had all the college licenses. So I was creating apparel brand designs for apparel, mass market apparel, Target, Walmart type apparel, as well as some special stuff for league stores and things like that. And so, and it was an interesting time. We were using Freehand and Illustrator and Quark Express and all types of desktop publishing tools. And there's some 3D tools that came out, and we did a 3D Cleveland Indian. Mm-hmm. And as a joke in the office, somebody stuck my hair on it. And so with my pompadour and in tow on that head, I took this graphic with the hair and I made a business card out of it. And I stuck it in a gang run, which is basically we took the digital file for my business card, and it got inserted on a press sheet that was running a bunch of other stuff. And that's how it was done then. I don't know if it's done then now. And so 15 different things were printed on one giant sheet. It was cut up, and everybody bought a piece of the print run, which made it cheaper. This is way before digital. And the business card that used this graphic without all the stuff going on inside the head, on a pinstripe background, basically I started getting calls for business to design, from the printing plant. So people walked through the printing plant, saw the cards drying, and took my number and called me for work. And I'm like, well, this image is this has some meaning. So this was drawn. So I was teaching art school at the time, art and design school, and I taught for about 10 years. A school called Portfolio Center. Now it's called Miami Advertising School. It's actually, but there's one in Atlanta. There's group chains around. It's now a franchise around the world. There's branches, and the branch of Miami School of Advertising is in Atlanta. But I was teaching there, and a student of mine who's become a friend, did this painting for me. He was a very, very talented illustrator. And this is a poster that's about 24 by 36. This is the original, but we made a poster of it. And I mailed these posters out as a self-promotion for my design from my agency. So I ran an agency for many years and did branding and corporate identity and whatever. And this is sort of what's going on in my head. I still don't know if what he's got in my mouth is an insult or a tribute. Because it's a muffler, to a car. So I don't know if he's calling me a motor mouth or just what I say was exhausting.
We'll leave it to the viewers to decide.
But anyway, I was grateful for every part of it because it was comical and interesting.
Yeah, but you've also set a new high bar for self-portraits for folks coming on the show.
Right.
As the origin story. So
I just happen to have it. That's right. So again, this I'm pretty vulnerable here showing you, but I mean this, but we like this, I like this stuff. And yeah, this one I shared with a lot of folks professionally that don't really use it anymore. The Cleveland Indians way obsolete. It just had, again, this painting just hangs in my office. But Paul again had asked for what's your origin story? These are the best things.
Absolutely. No. And to the viewers, you're welcome.
Yeah. I identify as a recovering comic book dealer. So I've kind of done the dealer thing. I mean, if you look at the books behind me or whatever, it's pretty much the right stuff.
Yeah, the books were there.
I mean, on the top row, besides the Hulk 181 and X-Men 1 or whatever, I mean, there's a Weird Science Fantasy 27 and whatever. There's more funds, 70 or 74,
There's two more funds, yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, so anyway, I've kind of been there and done that on the selling side, right? And I started to pile up and aggregate this stuff. And I was pressing, I had a partner, a very talented and sociable and knowledgeable guy who was a big soups collector. And, and we were doing stuff together. And I started pressing, being sort of the pressing person on the team. And I was fascinated me because the point is, it really is the only way to be fair in a transaction, as far as I can tell, and to monetize. You buy the collection at market value, which is how you buy anything. Then you press and clean it, and you sell the collection at market value, and you still make money. Nobody gets ripped off. Everybody's doing well, and you have a built-in way to level up.
Yeah.
So the capability that I'm developing now stems from working on this stuff back in the day, just trying to figure out what would work for me. But certainly I did not do then what I do now, and I do not have the same problems now that I had then. And we only did it for the house, so we had a very forgiving clientele. So anything money from the top 4 keys or 5 keys, everything else was gravy. So, which still is for a lot of people, but not everybody's a good sport in this business. So,
yeah. Well, the way that you think about cleaning and pressing economically, I've heard you talk about this before, really resonates with me. Another person whose views on this really resonates with me is actually Rick Morgan, who's in the chat. And just the sort of economics of who's taking the risk in the cleaning and pressing and who should get the reward and all of that stuff. Normal business rules apply to this. Just because it's a hobby doesn't mean that we can ignore them, right? And there aren't that many people thinking about them out loud. I think a lot of folks buy a t-shirt press, start cleaning and pressing, get some good results, and then put up a shingle and say, I'll do this for $20 a book, whatever. And some of them are very talented, but I think to take it to the next level, which is clearly what you're doing, clearly what Rick Morgan and others have done, it takes approaching it quite differently. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about more in the B segment. But I appreciate that it was already obvious to you when you owned more of like a traditional brick and mortar comic shop.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was telling a dealer a great guy who remained nameless for a minute, but just that we were going to come to heroescon, and he said to me, "Gosh, there's so many cleaners and pressers now," which actually to me is a great thing. I'll explain more about it. But my point is, he's going to a room that has 1,000 competitors in it.
Right. In terms of dealers, there's way more dealers than there are cleaners or pressers.
Oh my gosh, there's like 20 companies I'm hearing about that I haven't heard about before in a room where there's the barrier to entry. The barrier to entry to selling comics is even lower than the barrier to entry to cleaning and
Sure.
pressing them.
Absolutely.
So the point is like, how could you possibly do something with the barrier to entry is so low?
You don't even have to buy a Chinese t-shirt press.
Right. Well, there's lots of things you can do. Well, actually, that doesn't matter. I mean, I just want to be clear. All Neil Adams used was a brush. The rest was Neil Adams.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean? Like it's not, the point is, it's not really the tool. It's not really the promise. It's not even what you say and what you do. It's really how you do it and how often you do it well enough that other people talk about it well enough when you're not in the room.
Sure.
And yeah, that effort, I think, is really the distinguishing factor. It's very difficult to get past what I would call your head stash, you know, your basic, the books you do for yourself, the books you do for whatever, your immediate business, the books, and so that's really where you grow. And once you do that, now all of a sudden you've got that customer service point of view. So actually, but in dealing, when we were dealing, this is a 2014 photo. What's interesting is it's from 11 years ago yesterday. This is May 31st.
Oh, wow.
So, this is a customer service person you're looking at. This is a service-friendly booth. This booth was right at the entrance of the show, which I paid extra to be at. It has a selection of books that I worked very hard to accumulate in just the order that they're presented. It has a story I'm trying to tell, and it's lit the way I want it lit and presented the way I want it presented so that it's easy enough for people to make decisions or ask questions or whatever. And the way things are stacked there with all the prices on the upper left-hand corner and other stuff to make it easy to read when people were there, the little circle labels with prices on it. But my point is that everything I could was about the customer, because that's what makes the business worth doing.
Sure.
And that is the most exciting thing about the dealer years, was feeling the love from people who you helped improve.
Yeah.
And so whose stuff you helped improve. And so people were very loyal. And I never forgot that because, now as I catch up, I'm leaving a career that also was customer service, Henry, but I was a consultant that serviced a lot of lawyers. Lawyers are a different class of people when it comes to gratitude. I'm not saying they're not grateful people, and I'm not generalizing or prejudiced. What I'm saying is it's difficult for a lawyer to say out loud or to blast their network and say, these people really helped me with a case. You with me? You get gratitude from lawyers. It's very difficult to be successful when you sell to lawyers, and most of your best work is confidential. So
Sure.
It's just hard to get that appreciation. It's very rewarding in comics, to come back to that, where you help somebody with something small and they are just so happy for it because it was a treasure to them to begin with. And now it's truly something that they helped change. They knew to hire us, or they got involved in its success, its future, whatever this thing is. It was an asset. They recognized it, or they salvaged it, or they obtained it. And so we make those people look smart because they are. It just helps to see it more than once and not just see it in the mirror. You see it in the asset. And so that feeling of success in comics with camaraderie, and experiencing things together and the shared mythology. Those are the things you just can't get really in a lot of other careers. So it's great that I can turn this into one.
I think that's what we love about the hobby. I have a question for you before we move on from here. I'm going to say hi to a few people. Aaron Conyers is here. Rom Space Knight is here. Rick says he appreciates the Kirby crackle on your sign. And Jason, the Archivist Adrift, joined us. Please check out everybody's channels. Great content creators in our little group here. I have this question for you. I know a lot of folks who go through the dealer phase end up not really having a PC in the end. Do you still have a PC? And if you do, what are you looking for? Are you still hunting for things, or?
No.
Yeah.
I have thousands and thousands of comics, and all I'm trying to do is keep them dry and in the dark, and figure out when I'm going to have time to press them.
So you do have a PC, but you're not acquiring new stuff.
I have thousands of books, but it is not my interest anymore. I'm really not interested in them. I don't need to acquire any of them anymore. Believe it or not, because I'm working on them now. I'm living vicariously through your books.
I get it. Yeah.
You all are better hunters than I am. You're more patient than I am. You have a better eye than I do. You have better connections than I do. You've been at this longer than I had, and you're more studied and wise with more data than I've got. Like, you all have it. I'll never get to where you are easily or quickly. And actually, I'm a very impatient person who is pretending to be super, super patient 99% of the time. So I just really want other people to keep bringing me their stuff, because that's what I now live for. It's the what am I getting in the mail? The good news is it's going back out, but I can enjoy it. I can smell it. I can experience it for just a little bit. Though actually, the nicer the book, the less likely we are to open it all the way.
Yeah,
and it's very different. I
sure.
want this channel has a lot of old books and this, that, and the other. Where you open it up, you get into it, take the cover off, stuff like that. The stuff when you're working at a 9.8 on a Silver Age, I mean, you cannot really do the same thing.
Fully open the book, even.
Oh, you're not disassembling the book,
right, or even opening it
in most cases, I'd imagine.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, but even like pulling back a tan staple, pop. I mean, there it is. This is gone.
Oh,
like you can't really just like. Even it's just you just very quickly detach a cover when you're working inside of the books. So anyway, all I can say is I didn't know to expect this. I didn't plan it, but I've come to really, because we're working on lots of high grade books now, or like total collections. We're doing a lot more like somebody's 300 book action run.
Sure.
Like, then we're much more. Yeah, we just have new types of problems to solve, and again, I'm so excited by it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go back to my own stuff because there are mountains out there.
Sure. Yeah. No, like I said, I get it. No judgment. Jason, your puns and dad jokes will always get you on screen, so keep it coming.
That's the Archivista Drift is the Jason. Hi, Jason. That's fine. Keep it up.
I'm a Mac guy, by the way, so I won't take that personally.
I'm a Mac guy, but I do run Windows 11 in virtually.
Yeah, there's some things I have to program my Camaro with a PC. So,
God bless.
I still have to have one. Here you are. We have twins. Anything did you want to say about this?
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm leaving a corporate career developing software, and basically I'm an intellectual property expert, in my license, my credentials, and my practicing a licensing expert. And I spent 20 years using software to read the patents of other people around the world. And so even though I have an art background and I'm an MBA, I really have studied technology for 20 years. And I was hired by big companies to look at the other big companies they were watching, and to report back to them on what they were doing.
Sure.
And so I worked in software that read the news, read patents, read technical literature, summarized it, which of course ChatGPT can do right now quite easily. So there's really no reason for me to keep doing it the same way I was. And so I could continue to keep investing in that or try other things. And frankly, COVID changed my business. During COVID, maybe changed yours too. I know it changed collecting, but when COVID hit, I stopped buying comics. They got too expensive.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting on the sidelines, right? I could have sold them, didn't. Still got my stuff. Went up, went down. I'll live. It's all worth more than I paid for it. Sure. But we stopped using our real estate the same way. I had a team of people who were in knowledge workers, and we were in the knowledge work business. And they all started working from home.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we weren't using our office. It was just sitting there. And so literally, it was like 15 months, whatever, some crazy amount of months. Nobody was going in. My landlord's like, do you want your space? Your neighbors want it.
Sure.
Like, okay. So we're like, what are we going to do with the space? And then I started having, while this was happening, I got contacted by a comic book store owner who will remain nameless, though I will say I think very highly of him. But he had me come take a look at what he was doing and pressing to help him, and we didn't agree on anything. And it's not that I may be inherently disagreeable, but he was not disagreeable. He was doing what he was doing. But I was looking at what he was doing, with the labor he had in the real estate he had, the way he was doing it. And I'm like, this person is trying to be a great seller of comic books. How does he have time to become a world-class conservator? And he was doing stuff. I was like, I would never do stuff this way. And again, I'm not trying to disparage what he's doing. I'm just saying I had never encountered, I didn't even know the problem was that big. But I used to sell videos on how to press. Some of you on this call may have seen my videos. I used to give this information out for a few bucks. I sold it set of videos for $99 on how to press and clean because I thought I knew something and I was trying something. I didn't know much. I don't know much now, but knowing that I don't know much really helps me know more.
It does help, yeah.
But anyway, I was doing it, and so this person basically got a hold of my videos and watched it and said I was doing something differently. To which I disagreed. I scoffed. I'm like, how can I be doing anything different? I'm like, I barely even do this stuff. It doesn't even interest me anymore. I had a press that was sitting around for years, not doing anything. And he's like, no, you're doing something different. You're pressing multiple books at a time. No one's really shown that. And I went to talk to him and see. Anyway, he was trying to press. He had invested in equipment that would press about 10 books at a time. And we were just talking about how you would actually pull it off and cool it off. And how many cycles you could have and whatever. And ultimately, the MBA in me, started going to the math, right? And I was trying to calculate yield. I was looking at the yield and calculating the yield and working through it. I was like, I just wouldn't do it this way to get the yield. I was like, the yield this guy needs is really big. I'm like, he's not going to get it through this. It was my thinking. But we didn't really have a meeting of the minds. But again, to this day, I respect the fact that we were able to have a conversation about it. But I didn't really know enough then to help him. I only knew I didn't agree. So it wasn't helpful to him. He needs actionable information, which I understand. Yeah. But So anyway, I was leaving a career where I wanted to be able to be rewarded with people's praise by helping them. I want to feel good about it. I wanted to use my real estate. Comics were too expensive to keep buying, and it turned out that the ability to improve multiple comics at a time was valuable. And the more the more expensive the comics got, the more valuable it was. And then, most importantly, nobody in the world had solved the problem. Nobody. CTC had a 1-year wait. CBCS had a 2-year wait.
Yeah.
They took their phone number off their website. To this day, they're still paying for that. I mean, nobody could do it. It was proven. Nobody could crack pressing at scale. Nobody in the world. And therefore, it
probably contributed to somebody really losing all of it and turning essentially to criminal activity. Really, just the bulk of it and the scale at which they were trying to operate overwhelmed them. I don't think we've talked about this before. I don't think that person set out to cheat anybody, or I think they just got completely overwhelmed and then made some decisions that I don't think were wise and ended up in jail. Yeah. But I think it was the same problem that you're talking about. One of the other things that occurs to me is some of the folks that I gravitate toward in this hobby are doing things where they took some other part of their life or some other experience and they're applying them to our hobby in novel ways. And that really appeals to me. And I think it moves the hobby forward, right? So I love that you're applying your art background, your MBA. I love that Rick is applying his science background. Shelby's, become a great writer being in science, and he's applying that now to our hobby. And I'm sure I'm forgetting many others, but folks who take, deep knowledge in other fields and apply them to our hobby have an outsized impact on our hobby. And I just think it's so neat. Yeah. And it's one of the things, I appreciate you sharing this with us. And it was one of the things I really wanted to get out of you from this origin story. So,
okay. Well, I will say, I think most people in our hobby have really deep knowledge bases that they're drawing from. Some of it's comics related, but lots of people are from pop culture to, again, I know some talented dealers who were just, used to be like, they used to diagnose, problems on high-end vehicles, and now all of a sudden, they were professional troubleshooters or whatever, and they've moved into the comics. But yeah, you really do have to be a details person, though. You do have to be, the best people in the business that I have come to know are the most fastidious, and that really is, among the traits that one must recruit for. And actually, that's what we're building towards. But I guess because of all the stuff, the shift in press, COVID and collectibles and accessibility of comics and comic pressing knowledge and recent books on that, all that stuff. it's created more awareness and more passion and more activity in the comic pressing space. And what that is doing for someone like me is it's making a talented workforce emerge.
Sure.
Everybody who cleans and presses is a future employee for me.
Oh yeah.
Right. Now, or they can be a competitor, they can be a peer, but like if we could work together, that's great. Yes, I see. I'd like it to be working for me or with me. Maybe that's arrogant. Maybe I'll be working for someone else and working with them or for them. I can do that. I'm totally open to that. But the moment I have a vision, I'm trying to get together, and the hardest part has been finding talented people you don't have to train from the ground up or who walk away with all the knowledge, right?
Sure.
And so, but it turns out that there's no shortage of people in this world who are happy to work with an eraser in a quiet corner and not be bothered. That actually, there's actually that people savor that. So actually, that's easy to find. The hard part is the communication skills, because most of the pressing need, most of the need in most business is really about communicating.
Yeah.
And that's where you need technology and experience and dialogue, scripts and tenacity, because you can't be afraid of the counter opinion of which there are many in the comics.
Of course, yeah. The professor here is a great example of another person who has, deep knowledge in an adjacent area that's applying him to our hobby and really making an outsized difference. So
right, and I'll praise him, right, because Peter, we haven't met or we haven't really talked, but I mean, I've seen his videos and stuff. I mean, he's doing experiments on papers, I'm just reading or just read. Thank goodness there's not too many papers he's worked on that I haven't seen, but I certainly wouldn't have put him into practice nearly as quickly or as consistently as he has, and the diligence with which he
absolutely
quantifies his work, showing a path.
It's amazing.
Both the artistic and the technical path laid out, so other people can reproduce his work. It's right. That's what a great academic does.
To your point about everybody being, all the cleaners and pressers that are putting up a shingle being great for you. I think, if you study economics and you look at why America has prospered, one of the arguments is a very educated and productive workforce. Having public education that went into great public universities and the best universities in the world is one of, inputs to businesses where labor is highly educated and productive is really important for success.
What I would say is that's only paired with chemistry. And I don't mean chemistry for comic books. I mean chemistry between people. It turns out that a lot of the people who are really good at comics and pressing aren't really good at working with other people. And pressing is a team sport, it turns out. And actually, that is where our innovations are. I'll talk more about it. But I got into this to build a world-class team, a set of teams. And so that's what I want to do. Salesboy's asking me about software engineers on my team. Without going into too many details, what I will say is I actually do have some passionate customers who we've been successful for, who have software backgrounds. And when I talk in the next segment about what we're doing, I will say that we have developed some new software tools to be able to pull off the heroescon experience we're seeking in a few weeks. So we do have some investment there, but always interested in talking to talented people who have a point of view, who understand comics and have a point of view on software, because I can tell you this, my website is not the best, though I want it to be. My buying experience has tons of problems because I'm limited in what I can do with the software packages I've chosen. And I see the CGC process is miraculously cumbersome. And so trying to map what we do and how we sell to all the parameters CGC sells with only one or two dimensions of just a few lists. They have a very advanced website with lots of hierarchies and depth and whatever, even though they're nowhere near the quality of the website that their competition has in every other grading category. But my technology is even worse than that. So we are working on it. We do have some what's going on as technology debt we're trying to settle. So Salesboy, if you want to follow with me, you're more than welcome to, but we do have a little bit of engineering talent that we're working with right now.
We've come a long way, KK. Let's keep moving because we have a lot to get through.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is actually heroescon last year. So I started this business myself with experiments in my real estate after all my staff had started working from home. But my kids needed work. And actually, I started the business way back when in 2011, right after Disney bought Marvel was when I bought it, when I got into this, because I said Disney's going to make movies forever, right? And so once all that, they announced their first slate. That's when we started pouring money into this. And my kids needed work. They were very young, and so I made them junior associate vice presidents, whatever that means. And so each child was that. And then while we were in COVID, I had kids on couches with phones doing nothing. So it turns out the couch was entrepreneur school.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were outside, they were in landlord school. And so that was COVID for us.
Yeah.
And so right before COVID, I bought with my partner a really decent comic collection, but it had a truckload of toys to go with it. And so we got thousands of toys. So all during COVID, I had my kids listing toys in our eBay store and selling them. And so they sold and negotiated and haggled and did all that. And that's important. And I was able, for those of you who still have younger kids, this is a way to pay your children. And so I was able to pay them salaries under $6,000 or things like that, move the money each year legitimately for their contract work, usually for photography and some research. And we built that up. And so my son had gone, like many fathers and sons I see, go to shows, comic shows together, fathers and daughters too, moms and sons, moms and daughters too, not and people in between, couples, and others, doesn't matter. But actually, heroescon up until it was always on Father's Day weekend. So that's actually Father's Day weekend. My son came with me. It was Father's Day.
Oh, yeah.
This year, it's the weekend after Father's Day.
It is, yeah.
Anyway, so the business started just a way to buy comics, ride the Disney wave, get reconnected with the hobby, get some feelings of warmth, make some money, and involve my kids, and spend money on my kids. And it continued to grow. So once they got tired of all this stuff, they like video games more than comics. And then they were helping me in the office. And then we just started fighting. We just started arguing with each other, right? Because the comics got more valuable. They didn't want to handle them consistently. We hadn't taken pictures. They didn't want to stand taking photos. They wanted to sit down, this, that, and so we were like, okay, don't touch those comics. I mean, because I've been training them the whole comic since they were little. So that was like no big deal. If you will. But once family business we outgrew it, that's when things really kind of took off. So anyway, so today we're a business that involves my family, has more staff than that, continues to grow, but it acts as a family. Where we're constantly wowing each other, probably like at CGC, check this out. Oh my God, can you believe this? I've never seen one of those and whatever. Yeah. So you get those joys together. And then otherwise, we're always just looking for enough real estate where we can get away from somebody if they're bothering us a little bit. So that's kind of what's going on. And that's how we got to this slide. And that's really the origin story to date. And
that's awesome.
Sorry for it taking so long, but that's what's happened.
No, I really enjoyed it. We did a lot of meandering to good places. So I think, though, we can Sales Boy, we got all of Barry's contact info in the description. You can check it out at your leisure. And HeroCon is a convention I have heard about and I have heard great things about for years. And I've been wanting to go. It's been on my bucket list of I ought to go. And every year I kind of look at it and go, can I squeeze it in this year? And I was on the fence, but I was leaning toward going. And Barry told me what he was going to be doing here and attempting this year. And that was the last catalyst I needed to commit to going. So I'm very much looking forward to it. It'll be my first time there. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you, Barry, there. And so what we're going to talk about in this segment is what is HeroCon? What are you trying to do there? We already did the short kind of elevator pitch, but we're going to get into the details of how difficult it is and just why no one's done it before, some of the risks involved and how you attempt to mitigate them and be successful here for your clients. And so I'm really looking forward to it. But here are the dates for HeroCon, June 20 through 22, and you're going to be occupying booths 232 through 232. Are those all three yours, or are they in partnership?
There's two booths. They're even numbers, so 230 and 232. Golden has their own booth, and they're actually who's our partner. They're on the other side of the convention center. It's a giant convention center. We're actually in the very, very, very last row, facing a wall. So believe it or not, it's a bad location if you would think about it that way, except for two things. Number one, we're right down from CGC. And number two, we're right across from Chris Claremont, John Romita Jr., Roy Thomas, Jerry Conway.
Wow.
So, which is where we were last year.
So
we'll
on
be
that's the
at
artist alley. Plus, CGC is often, I think, tucked in the back, and it's sort of like a destination. So people go to that. It's like putting milk in the way back of the grocery store. You have to go buy everything else to get the milk, and you buy other things along the way, maybe.
That's right. But there's multiple artist alley. It's so big. There's so many artists there. Multiple. This is where the preeminent.
Those are the heavy hitters, though. Yeah.
But of course, it gets very congested there, so it's good and bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just will be working together. But anyway, 230, 232 are our booths. Those are 2 booths. It's a 20-foot booth, and we'll have some other wonderful things there. And then Golden has their own booth. We're taking consignments at all the booths and working with each other throughout the show.
Right. So someone can interact with you indirectly through the Golden booth, essentially.
You're going to interact with.
They'll be representing you, and vice versa.
Yeah, it'll be a Comic Presser Golden team. There's the head of comics at Golden will be there, who has all the authority, and expertise and passion to review, and they'll be taking consignments and doing what they do as a world-leading auction house. And then we'll be also reviewing, either taking books to press at the show, taking books to press not at the show, taking books that Golden to press for free, as we'll talk about, because Golden will pick up the pressing because they'll end up getting consigned to Golden.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So shall we jump into it? Next slide. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are we doing? It's actually, what's happened is over time, our cleaning capability has come, has come up to our pressing capability. I kind of started this with technology and capability to press more than 100 books an hour. And that's where we started. And so I've kind of been at, since I moved into comicpresser.com, and not just stuff for myself and my partner, was really just being able to press dozens and dozens of books an hour. And that doesn't mean they're done in an hour. It means they're transformed. And what I thought that would be like the killer capability, but it really bored people. You press, I press, we press, you press this, I press that. That's fine. I don't need 100 books pressed. I just need this book pressed. Press this book. I'll press it. Never mind. So pressing really is as Rick said earlier in the comments, a red ocean. It's very easy to press. That's not what we sell. We definitely don't sell pressing. And most people don't want that because the problems they have go beyond it. It's part of it. So sure. A lot of what we do is cleaning, but really it's presenting. We're basically shaping this thing up so that the next nerd under the next mag is going to see nothing like what we saw, so that we can nerd out together on the remarkable lack of anything to talk about, which is the wonderful magic of the comic grading community. But these are just showing whatever, ink removal, fox removal, whatever. I picked up a lot of these techniques from people on this call. Mick Morgan, watching his stuff. I mean, Rick back in the day was fearless, right? Yeah. And I mean it totally respectfully. Whether he was right or whether he was wrong or whether he was in the middle, he was just as enthusiastic about it. It didn't matter. Okay. And same with me. If I'm right or wrong or in the middle, I'm still enthusiastic about it. I'm allowed to be wrong. It turns out there are some people who don't like the fact that we could be wrong. Some people suggested we would be wrong just by touching people's books. Those people aren't our friends, but we're happy they're around. What we care about is that we get to work with good sports who understand that pressing is risky. I mean, the moment you manipulate something under pressure and temperature and moisture, you're doing something to a book that's so fragile. There's an industry that exists to fix it.
Sure.
So but the fact is that almost every customer we have has been a cool, interesting, patient person who's been tolerant. Not everybody, but most of them. And what I would say is that as we grow in this capability, most people have won with us, which has shocked me to no end. Nobody taught me grading. I've spent $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 figuring it out. You with me? Sure. Sometimes it's your money. right? I'm
Yeah,
doing
sure.
stuff, sending it to grading. What's happening? In the beginning, we were eating problems. We would get stuff regraded, and that got way too expensive. So we finally had to change our policies. Thank God we have tolerant people who have enough money, time, patience, books, whatever, or we've worked it out. But in general, the books we work on tend to go up.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the magic of pressing. Most things look better pretty much, right away to most people after, a press. And so that's the satisfying and rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we've evolved over time. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, like you said, though, it is a de facto education too in grading. Like, even if you don't have a lot of grading, by submitting all these books time after time, you can say, oh, I've submitted enough that look like this. I know this defect will be counted this way. I know I can do this or what I can do. So there is an added benefit to that, but also knowing too, and I'm sure you know this, that question, that just because the book may look nicer, CGC may still give it a technical grade that is the same or maybe even lower, because once you remove this tape, the spine split's revealed, and even though the spine is shifted back into its original orientation, there's still grade limiting defects, or 15 years ago when it was submitted and now the work's being done on it, the grading rubric's a little different now. So maybe those stains are viewed a little bit differently. So maybe it's better, even though the work could be done, the book's almost certainly going to drop in grade, to just leave it alone if you're looking just for that grade bump. That's, it is kind of a cool education that we get to get by seeing books go in and come back, and what's it going to come back at.
It was cool after the second or third $100,000. The first $100,000 really hurt. I hear you. So what I can tell you is that the way we phrase what you astutely said is, it's structure first and aesthetic second at CGC.
Yeah.
And so if the structure of the book is compromised, it's torn, it's split, it's chipped, whatever, no amount of ink removal is going to change it. And a lot of people get very annoyed at names and date stamps, where the CGC team, who've been kind enough to talk to me, of those people, have told me over and over, we really don't downgrade a lot for that. We're totally tolerant of that. Please leave it alone. That's what they've told me. Yeah. Or just, whiten it, go for it, whiten it, just be gentle, just tone it back. Don't worry so hard. Nobody has a problem. But again, when we started, there were plenty of naysayers and whatever, and again, I was on the CGC forums back in 2014. I left that. I just could not appreciate the tone and echo chamber like mentality around the cleaning and pressing part of the conversation. But what I would say is that having enough experience and wisdom, scar tissue, whatever you want to call it, now knowing what I can ignore, I appreciate what I do take in. I appreciate a lot more. And but all I can say is grading is totally at your own risk. The comments are few, if not, sometimes none. And trying to get somebody on the phone to talk about it is not really the easiest thing to do with an grading company. So we'll say CGC is responsive. Their customer service team does work hard. Most of them works hard. Though I will say that we have had some problems recently where something's come back damaged, and I can't get anything from CGC quick, but I can get a denial from them quick. So I can get denials in less than 24 hours. I really can't get much else from them in less than 24 hours. So there are issues still with all of us. And so when a book in my hands ends up having a problem, or my team's hands has a problem, I just say, I know how many problems CGC has. And so I have to say, when the best in the world, the best company in the world, whether you like them or not, has these problems, while we don't make excuses for what we do, we are grown-ups about it. We're like, this is variation in an industrial process. All processes have variation. This is what we're doing to eliminate the variation or reduce it down to an in-control level, in spec and in control, technically. And because of that, we feel that what we did was in spec and in control, and we still had the problem, then it's something that, we can sleep with ourselves at night. So here's the question: how do you handle a client when damage is hopefully rarely done to a book? Well, I've had some in the very beginning, I had some, actually the richest people, the most people with the most comics, the people who drive the nicest cars, they're the worst sports. Okay. They're the ones who don't like to lose even on one book, on one thing. And so they're the toughest because they have all the money and all the power and all the books, and they're not happy. What can you do? You bend over backwards. After that, it's about emotion. You can't really solve someone's emotional concern with you. All you can do is act with integrity. But what's interesting is I have a client who's a spine surgeon, and I asked him the same question. What happens when a job goes wrong? How do you do it?
Hmm.
How can you be a spine surgeon and have a problem? And he absolutely has problems, this guy, right? He's nicked spinal cords and things that happens.
Sure.
So, I mean, what do you do? And he said, every extra day one of my patients gets to walk the earth makes me happy I've done my job. And, as long as these comics, we've done our best and we have tried to make it the most beautiful thing, which frankly, for most people will be locked in a plastic coffin anyway.
Sure.
Is something that, we can sleep with ourselves at night.
Yeah. Before we move on from this, I do want to say something briefly about what I know about you and your process. So your process is proprietary, and we have generally been open source on the show and on my channel. But that's just because of where I'm at in this hobby. It's not a judgment, and it's not something where I feel like that's the correct way, and having intellectual property isn't. I've worked in both those realms, and I certainly respect it. One of the things that I happen to know about you, even though these processes are proprietary, is that you are a diligent student of the conservation literature, of the state of the art of conservation, and of what is happening in that profession. And you are applying everything you learn in that profession to comic books in the most professional way and in the most careful and conservative way you can. So for those of you that wonder what's going on behind the curtain, it's not revealed for a reason, right? Barry's invested a lot of time and energy in developing these things. And again, just because I'm open source on what I'm doing does not mean that I think that's the only way or even the best way to go about it. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. And I thought this was a good place to kind of put it and then keep the show moving on. I don't know if you want to react to it as we go to the next slide.
Yeah, all I can say is the best conservator everybody knows now is ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So if you're not asking conservation questions of ChatGPT, please do.
Yeah.
But all I can say is, I come from a background of researching the technology and researching the literature. So when I see references that are poorly supported, have low number of citations thrown at me like, oh, look at this paper. This says everything. I just look at it with 20 years of experience and say, okay. Anyway, just because a paper's out in the ethosphere doesn't mean it's worth anything.
True.
So understanding how to not just find information, but to evaluate, as you Dr. Pollock say, its provenance, or its again, it's a citation that's known as its impact. It's understanding that because of its provenance and impact, that it's worth attempting to apply, and then trying to apply it to transform it to what we all do. I have no chemistry background, but I've worked with chemists for 20 years because they worked for me in my other company. So I understand if chemistry be dangerous, and I can read chemistry all day long, but I can't put together a diagram, a molecular diagram in my head. But what I'm really interested in normally are properties. And so all I can say is that a lot of what I'm doing now is finding something that shows positive properties, of which, like the recent stain removal and whitening book, for example, and now it's more recent follow-up, but that illustrated quite a few properties. The properties of hydrogen peroxide, the properties of blue light, the properties of moist paper. Do I need to moisten paper the way someone showed me? Now that I know those properties, do something under pressure or in a vacuum or what? No, I can do it my way. But sure. Understanding that certain properties create certain effects, that is the power of the literature. That's the power of staying at this show. The community Paul and
that's what we've tried to put together. Yeah.
That's the power.
Give people tools.
Properties and how to apply them.
Yeah. So the setting, I'm super excited. We've already talked about this quite a bit. I don't know if we need to say much more here.
Why are these three pictures here? Number one, because the best living artist in the world, Jim Starlin. I got a selfie with Jim Starlin last year in the hotel lobby. Wow. You know what I mean? I mean, just great. They're cool people. They're around, Jim Shooter, Al Milgram, they were hanging out. Chris Claremont, I saw them all at the lobby bar one time or another at the convention hotel. They're around. So anyway, the best living artists are these. There's many more than just fit on this little card.
Of course, yeah.
Then on the right, the big picture, just, it's an aerial view of a convention center. It's just so big. Vintage comics, vintage comics, vintage comics, vintage comics. There's a few Funko Pops. There's little baby Lego toys. I mean, there's, cool superhero blankets and funky T-shirts, but I mean, and some lightsabers and whatnot, but most of this is just dealers, which is really great. And being in Atlanta, against being the Southeast, is a Southeast show, I get to see a lot of people I know or run into or whatever. And my attitude is Georgia is a decent comic state, but Atlanta is not a great comics town. So I really enjoy going to the show. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show. And then the inset with the cosplay showcase. I mean, heroescon has a giant cosplay thing. Plus, they have like an art auction. The artists do art, and then they auction off. I mean, they have so many things. It's been going on for 40 years.
I'm pumped.
The point is that the founders of the show, Shel Tanger and others in the Heroes Online, Heroes Are Hard to Find store, of which this is built off of, they've been at it for so long. They're such good folks. The place is so friendly. It's worked so well. They have everybody's built into it. I mean, all the Comic Link, Comic Connect, Heritage, all of them are golden. Ace. I mean, everybody shows up. Harley Yee. I mean, all the dealers, the people, Reese Brothers, all the stuff, they're all there. So anyway, it's just the right people are there for what I would call an East Coast or Southeast show. There are some very cool West Coast dealers who don't make it out to this, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But a lot of the people in the East Coast make it to this.
So if you go, definitely stop by Barry's booth, check him out. 2:30 and 2:32. I'll be milling around as well. Hopefully we see you. So this is interesting. You taught me some stuff about Golden. Talk about your relationship with them.
So Golden Auctions used to be owned by PSA. And they were sold by PSA, who acquired what's known as the eBay Vault, and they were sold to eBay. So Golden Auctions is currently owned by eBay. Our relationship is with eBay and Golden. Golden Auctions also has a Netflix series called The King of Collectibles. Ken Golden, who is the name proprietor, he's in the white T-shirt in the small picture there. Ken is a world-class, salesperson par excellence and sports card collector and sports fanatic, and is connected deeply with the major league celebrities. In fact, Peyton Manning is a co-producer of the show. And the show features super rare things from like the owner of the Diamondbacks and stuff like that. But in comics, it's a lesser segment for them.
Yeah.
And so they're $100 million plus a year business.
They're kind of an upstart in comics.
Yeah. But $100 million a year. Owned by
sure. Yeah.
So,
but when you compare that to Heritage, that's still
right. Heritage is.
I'm
not speaking for them. I believe they're like a $2 billion a year business.
Yeah.
So, but still dwarfed by eBay. Though again, Heritage is top tier collectibles, art collectibles. Golden is collectibles, much less so on fine art. But other things, categories that Heritage is in, like fine wines, real estate, whatever. But what I would say is that Golden is trying to build more traction in the comic space. Their weekly auctions and featured auctions, and the shows hunts for various comics and things like that. And and anyway, I formed a relationship with the leadership at Golden, frankly, for heroescon. I met them at heroescon, and connected with them. And my vision is that conservation is the on-ramp to controlling the value of your vintage paper collectible. If you, the owner, want the most for your vintage paper collectible, finding the right person to sell it is part of it, but not only. I think, and I've done like just one video to show this. I'm not really that good yet on maintaining on YouTube because I've been fortunate to be very busy and not fortunate enough to have the commitment that Phil and Paul and Larry and Shelby and others have, and Jerry, those people who really are very active and consistent on YouTube, Swaggle House Comics, people like that. I really envy you guys. I want to be like you, but I haven't been able to do it yet. But what I would say is that I just got to know the people there who are great people, and they really want to be active in the space. And they have observed, as I have, that folks like Heritage, they put whatever you give them in a slab, and you pay the bill. Heritage charges you a seller's premium, unless your books are the best in the world, in which case you can negotiate it. They charge a buyer's premium, which is high. Golden's buyer's premium is high too. It's like Heritage. But if they grade your books, they're deducting it from your auction. results. You're paying all those expenses just down the road. So you have to pay to get your books graded. And most of the time at Heritage, I'm not saying what Heritage does. I cannot speak for them. What I'm saying is a lot of books I see at Heritage can be pressed.
Yeah.
They're not really cleaning and pressing, full runs of Golden Age books. I mean, there's tons of room left in, which is good. It sells the book.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying, like, if you're the owner, how much, it's like if you're selling a house and you sell it to a flipper, maybe you leave like the master bathroom undone and everything else is great. Maybe it's the kitchen. Maybe you didn't finish the basement. You give them one or two things where they can add on and say, I'll make this more valuable than the way I found it. They pay your premium to buy the property, right? So you leave them a little bit of gravy in there, but not too much. Oh, there's a lot left on the table on a lot of different books that aren't the primo books. Good news, Heritage has lots of those too. But for Golden, my conversations with them were just about there's a lot of room left on the table for people who don't press the books. They either can't afford it or won't. I said, for you guys, maybe you want to consider working with a group like us to help people get a sense of control and, get more value out of the books. I was like, and we were already working together. I'm like, you're going to pay to press these books anyway. I'm like, you may as well just talk to people about it. And so, we just started talking about it. Actually, Golden was not at heroescon last year. So they have a small comics team. The comics team had another event to do and whatever, and they didn't make it heroescon. So I'm saying, like, they just really want to make a difference. I'm not speaking for them, but we really want to make a difference. And so we were of like minds in that respect. And I was able to do some, improving of books for people who work for Golden, just their personal comics or test books or whatever. And so we were like, maybe this could work. And then I will say again, at Heritage Auctions, we've grown in doing what I would call major collections. So again, 200, 300, 400 books, all really nice books. And I'll actually hold up an example. Paul, can you cut to me for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm going to have some of these books at my booth in heroescon, right? But I mean, like, we're running across collections. This book's still a work in progress. This is a before picture, but we get to discover books, that are really cool. Yes, I mean, I have runs and runs of these books, that are really nice. So we have like the stuff that's hard to find, right? And then we have the stuff everyone wants to find, right? And so, like,
is Rick still with us?
We get these things, all the time now. And so the trick is, like, how do we make a name for ourselves that isn't just yet another cleaning and pressing company, yet another company with the word press or comic in their name, And so, that's where our aspirations are, to try to really make that difference. And so Golden wants to make the difference too. And we're getting really big collections. We're walking them into other auction houses, not just Golden. And, we're guiding people to it. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know what they're known for. They don't know any of that stuff. They just know, they heard of Heritage, they heard of Gold, heard of Comic Connect, Comic Link. They don't know the difference. What are these people known for or good for? And then the range of consignment sellers, all the way down to the folks on Instagram. I mean, they're all viable options for selling long runs in comics. And so, not just the key issues. So anyway, we were just really trying to build on what we get, what they want, and what customers need, which is really awareness as to how to make the most return. And cleaning and pressing is often the on-ramp to the rest of the process. Sure. I get a big collection, it shows up, and I'm like, what are you going to do with this? And they're like, well, we're going to sell it. I'm like, well, where are you going to sell it? They're like, I don't know yet. I'm like, when do you want it sold? They're like, I'm taking my time. I'm like, well, what do you expect for it? They're like, I have no idea. And I'm like, once you figure out that, like, most of us would have those answers without really tons of research.
Sure.
And so I'm like, okay, well, we're going to help people at least, kind of, because nobody really wants their book clean and pressed. Because no one really even knows how to order it. It's complicated. They don't want it clean and pressed. They want it sold. They want it slabbed. They want it displayed. Or they want the grade. They want the knowledge. They want to know what grade is my book from childhood. That's what they want. The rest of it is just tax. So we don't want cleaning and pressing to be seen as a tax. We want it to be seen as an on-ramp. And so with Golden, we have an opportunity to take what we do and make it less of a tax. And so that's what I think we're going to bring, or we're trying to bring. And when I work with customers even today, I'm really working with them to understand their goal. And that's why we know, should we be aggressive? Do we even need to be? I mean, I'm sorry the writing on the back annoys you, but it is on the back. I'm like, do we really want to try to rub the paper raw to get this thing off? Or, maybe you can live with it if it's not really going to change the grade, technical grade, and you can still net as much in a sale within 6 months. So anyway, just talking with people and working through their goals. Our attitude is nobody really wants cleaning and pressing, believe it or not. They really just want the result.
They just want the most money or whatever it is. Yeah.
And then
or the
other
highest grade.
I use internally. Nobody really wants drills. They only want holes.
Yeah.
And so the rest of it is just a means to an end. So anything we can do to eliminate steps, to get people closer to their goal and to make them feel in control while it's happening, that's what we want to do. And this partnership opportunity is part of that.
Awesome. We're at an hour 20, so let's keep it moving.
We're just about, yeah. Well, I mean, the cat's out of the bag, right? So anyway, we're taking submissions on site, and then Golden again has come up with this generous point of view, which is like, if your book's worth $200 or more, we'll buy your pressing for you. If your book's worth $3,000 or more, we'll buy your pressing and your grading for you.
Nice.
How can that go wrong? So we have to take everybody's books, and then I'm going to be working with the dealers in the room. I want them to drop long boxes at my booth before they leave. I want to take their long boxes for them. Sure. Many of the dealers have their own platforms, have their own streams. They have their own networks. They sell their stuff. They don't want to share this, that, or the other. That's great. But then there's the rest. The dealers, the rest of their stock, whatever it is. Golden has scale. They can process and auction everything. So, I mean, for anybody who's got a long tail of stuff sitting there that has decent books, that's fine. For the dealers, we might be more tolerant of books that are worth less than $200 this minute. If we're going to get them to $200 or more after our work, which we in Golden have learned to handicap, the upgrade potential and things like that. Can we form an opinion book by book and one long box at a time right at heroescon? No. But for dealers who have the patience and don't want to take back all the weight, we're trying to help them. So for customers, for dealers, etc. So you had talked about risks. I would say right here, there's some risks. The biggest risk is that my current customers will feel like they're not going to get the attention they need because we're going to get slammed. Respectfully, I hope most of them feel like they get the attention they need, though we do take every bit of 8 weeks many times when you make an 8-week order. We are working very hard on comics. Most of the stuff is like peeling an onion. We're delayering the problem, so it's not one pass or whatever. So again, I can press 100 books an hour or whatever, but it's not the only press. But sometimes it is. And every day we get the likelihood higher that is the only press. But my point is that we're really trying to make everybody feel like they're getting taken care of. But the class of service you get is the class of service you are normally getting from us. And sometimes things actually take a little longer because every book is inspected under magnification more than once here. So we're really not trying. We've invested to not change all that, to change our process, to do all that. But we have to do it. So our staff is growing, our equipment is growing. But most importantly, our innovation is growing, so therefore our yield is growing. And now we've been able to do that consistently for, again, larger collections, as well as for, we're already getting long boxes of stuff while we have dozens and dozens of onesies, twosies, foursies, eightsies. And so, so we've already kind of gotten through that. But yeah, so anyway, so one risk is that we alienate current customers by not being able to serve them in a timely fashion. We're hoping that's not the case. For the past 4 weeks, we've been trying to get many orders out early. And so getting ahead of it, stuff like that.
Nice.
So, but I do think, we have to keep communicating. Another risk is that we don't communicate well, and that people don't understand what we're doing, or so this offer passes them by, or they feel like, again, it's not for them for some reason because we didn't tell the story right. So these are things we're working on to make sure that we can not disappoint the people we know, not disappoint the people we're trying to meet, and further make sure that we're always in touch with folks to try to get the story straight. And even if there's a delay, which any professional business could have, I don't expect, but that we manage it well, that we take care of it. So those are the kinds of things we're trying to do. One other risk is that the book won't come back at the show because we have a guarantee. We haven't really talked about it. I don't think there's any other pressing company in the business that has a printed, published guarantee of what they will and won't do to fix a book. We do. I don't think anybody does. Not CGC, nobody. And so we guarantee our work. I guarantee it. I don't guarantee the grade will go up, but I do guarantee that there'll be no more cleanable, pressable defect notes. Of course, if there's no notes, I win. But I mean, but although there won't be something left behind. And if you get a conserved grade, which has happened, some people don't like that. I hear you. Don't order deep cleaning if you don't Don't let us take a greater risk if you don't want to. We don't try to do anything we shouldn't do. We stop people long before every 9/6 that comes to me, I'm like, we won't crack the slab unless we stare at it. But I mean, we really do guarantee our work. We have to meet the guarantee. We're not changing the guarantee to do this promotion. So we're going to be slow if we have to. We'll just ship it back for free. So the biggest risk is that we're so slow that everything's great, and then we have to eat tons and tons of shipping, which I'm willing to do this year. But to see, because the most important thing is that we meet our guarantee. Now, for people who like have to have it done or whatever, we will work with them to stage it so they get what they need. The final segment are the people who just don't want to ever have their comic go through the mail, which I totally appreciate. Those people might not end up being the best for if they really do have to get it pressed and signed and graded all in the same weekend. That will be the most difficult thing. And as I understand it, CGC got it last year. They themselves were very late at heroescon. Many books did not come back on site, even though they were promised. Though I understand they improved what they could do at Baltimore, which last year, and then maybe even this year, and maybe New York or other places they've done it. I don't know where, but I know they've continued to improve their process.
That'll be exciting. From that. I'm going to bring some books to sub. I don't care if I get them back on site. They could mail them to me, but.
He's called an easy client.
Yeah, you're right. You're an educated client, But there are many people who just don't want those books mailed at all. They don't want them in the mail. They want to, but we will be working with them to steward it through.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that that's just a conversation then with them saying like, looking at the book first. Hey, this is a book looking at the defects. There is a chance that it might need multiple presses to maximize the technical grade. And even within a couple of days, maybe that is a guarantee that you can give. But I would assume that might be something that might complicate it, and that's just something that they know going into it.
Well, we will have an offsite pressing center built. So now it'll be in the convention center, but it won't be. It's not on the show floor. So I mean, we'll just like CGC has its own facility built in the convention center to do on-site grading. We will have our own facility to do pressing.
But they're not just doing grading, they're doing slabbing on site, which means, to my knowledge, sonic welding and other stuff. Yeah. They've got to move that equipment there. So they've got to have a space adjacent, but not on the floor itself, I don't imagine.
Right. So we're relocating our office essentially. And I'm doing this. This is super important to me. Okay. What's important to me is we go to the mountain.
Yeah.
And
I think this is great. I think more options for collectors is just better for collectors. Yeah. Right. Like having this capability on site, which, as you pointed out, has never existed to this extent, has never existed with these kinds of synergies between auction houses and CGC and opportunities for signing. It's just better for collectors to have these options available to them.
And again, I don't really know what was before because I wasn't involved in. So again, Matt Nelson and Classic Collectible Services and whatever.
CCS did something right, but clearly they weren't offering whitening, which you are. So even all other things equal, you're offering more than has ever been offered before. Plus, again, they didn't have a partnership with an auction house that would cover those costs if you were consigning a book, et cetera. So I think that this is just brand new territory. It's brand new opportunities for collectors that have never existed before. And again, I think just more opportunities is better. More options for collectors is better, right? Nobody is going to have a gun to anybody's head that they have to have their book cleaned and pressed by you. So it's only going to be used by the people that want to use it, right? So that's just good for everybody.
Well, right. But I mean, we do have a good reputation. Not the best, I guess, because there's got to be room to grow. And there's plenty of people I envy and admire in this space, et cetera, but we have a good reputation. And we have, I mean, for every 1,000 customers I have, maybe, 600 or more repeat customers, so I mean, maybe 700. So, I mean, we have a really good repeat business over time. And so we've been able to connect with folks, which it shocks me to know. And I just want to be clear. I don't find out this stuff until then. Someone's like, you turned my 8.5, my ASM 129, go 8.5 to I said, serious. This guy said, you got me an 8.5 to a 9.6 on my ASM 129. And then he goes, twice. I was like, oh my God.
That's
Like,
so
we
super.
don't know either. But so my point
That's
is, we've
awesome.
been able to please people enough where they come back, and
Yeah.
that's why it's totally about process. We don't really we look at every book, but we're not agonizing over it. It's like, this is what works.
Yeah, you have your thing. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, bringing it all together has been. Matt Nelson did it. I can tell you that. I did ask a dealer, who's been around for a long time, what didn't work, if you recall that era of on-site pressing.
Yeah.
And the one thing I heard, which we have a mitigation plan for, was that however they were handling humidity, they couldn't get books dry enough during the show.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had issues with flaring or warping or curving, something like that. And so we shouldn't have those.
Tough to control, yeah. Vulu, welcome to the show. Vulu says, I hear they're usually more generous on site with the grading, meaning CGC. I can neither confirm nor deny that, but
it happened to me.
Does anybody know? Do we have any anecdotes? That'd be great.
I had a 4.5 that I had a staple tear. But it was a very Fox one. I cleaned up, it was really beautiful, but it's still the staple tear. And I got a 3.5 on it, sending to CGC. And I walked the book in to on-site grading at Baltimore, and I left with a 4.5. So I don't know if they're generous.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Well, again, the best people at CDC are at the show. I mean, Matt Nelson was there, and Sean, the vice president. Yeah. Their best graders, I think, were at the show. So, like, maybe at CDC, you don't always get like I don't know if the gradings were generous, but all I can say is you may be getting a better opinion.
An actual better. You would think on site would be maybe a downgrade because of all of the logistics, but in fact, you may get. Not. Yeah, I happen to know because I've been in communication with Matt. He is literally physically 2 full days grading while he's there. He said he's only going to get a little bit of time on the floor.
And actually, that will be the same for me. Yeah, I as much of a blabbermouth as I am here, because I love to talk to customers, I really mostly, I expect to be up in the pressing center most of the show.
Check out Sales Boys Comics channel, everybody. He is very funny. He does keep it moist. Hey, Jordan, welcome to the show. Jordan says, Barry's great, best in business.
Jordan, your books will be ready soon.
Jason wants to know, will these kinds of collaborations knock out the little guys? Will it affect smaller businesses like Phil or Kenny? Or do the services offered not really cross over?
There's no crossover, really.
I'm not going to speak for Phil. He can speak for himself. But if Kenny means Kenny Sanderson, I mean, he is the sole restoration resource at CGC. He is aligned with the biggest in the business. I mean, there's no bigger partnership that I can note than that I read about. Again, I don't know Kenny Sanderson personally, and I'm not speaking for him, but I mean, if you believe what you read, he is their primary restoration resource.
I think it just grows the pie, right? It's more collectors have access to more services. And are there folks on the margin who get squeezed out because they're not efficient or not very good? Probably. But I think, quality is going to be here. And I think this kind of innovation just grows the pie. It doesn't really hurt other folks who are offering a high quality service and are being value add to their customers, because that's really what all of this is about.
There's a lot of people going to law school and a lot of lawyers, and they're not out of business practicing law. I mean, knowledge does not put you out. I think but his practice does. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, Kenny once told me there's more funny books to go around than there are people to work on them. So very much the case.
That is hypothesis, and most of them are not going to move from where they are.
Yeah.
And that's why, or they move from where they are on special circumstances, like they all show up under one convention center roof once a year. And that's right. So we want to go to mountains. We're building this capability. And just for once a year, the mountain builds itself in Charlotte. That's why we're going there.
Awesome.
It's a mountain of totally unique proportions.
I don't know if we would, let's address this question and then move on from this slide. Does Barry offer leaf casting? I'll let you answer that, Barry.
So yeah, I sent Paul a video of me leaf casting. So the short answer is we do leaf casting and are doing it for some customers, but we don't have a line item on our website and aren't selling it. I actually don't like it. I don't like doing it. Are you with me? I don't like it because most of my work is on people trying to get high grade blue label books. Okay. So if you take a look at the segments of the market, right, you say, well, let's put people out of business. We are the kind of cleaning and pressing company people come to get a blue label.
Yeah.
If they don't get a blue label, we don't hear the end of it. So,
I don't know about that.
You know, we are not the people to get you a purple label. We're not the people to get you a less purple label. We're not the people to get you a blue gray label on purpose unless we have had a long conversation. Okay. Because every time you ask me to fix a tear, I'm going to try to talk you out of it if you want the value to persist. Right. But I can't. Yeah. So, you know, like I do leaf casting and I'm working on stuff, but I have one book that while we tried to get CGC to acknowledge they split the book, they could not. And so therefore I've got a split book. It's got to be put back together. So we'll do it. I have other stuff where a tear or splits happen where we've been working on it and client wants us to fix it. They know conservation will come one or the other. And sometimes leaf casting is more invisible repair than tear seals. And I want to be clear. My repairs are designed to be invisible. Don't like it. Don't work at CGC. That's all we do is stuff that's designed to be invisible. If you want a visible repair, there's plenty of people who work less than we do who would love to give you a visible repair. We work over and over and over to make our work blend in. Blending
so aside from
just visibly. Sorry,
so aside from special cases, you know, you're going for the blue label. So you're quantity.
I imagine it's just also a higher.
That's the specialty. Yeah. Which is what, you know, that's what makes sense for a lot of the books. A lot of people the end goal is best universal grade. Like beyond that, then you start going in the niche category of books being worked on where the majority of what needs to be done is that. Then there's books on the side, which by and large make up a very small minority, but there are good books that need work done. But if you're looking to do what you're trying to do and scale something, then it's makes more sense to go with the former than the latter, because going through and developing leaf casting to do the work, even though it might make sense on a book, might not be as cost effective as focusing on this over here, and which makes sense.
Though you can get blue labels in leaf casting.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, they just have to not see it, and they have to be very careful to see it. Many times they're tearing a book to try to get at it to see if there's been leaf casting. That's how hard they're working, and God bless them. But what I'm saying is that, my job is just to fix the problem and make it as not noticeable as possible. There's no form that CGC hands me to fill out to say, tell us what you did in the book. There's nobody who would read it that I know of anyway. They don't ask for it, and they don't seem to want it. So they're world-class graders. Their job is to find it. And frankly, if they didn't find it, it didn't happen. And so we just do our job and hand it to people who are doing their job. If they have a question, they'll ask us. If they don't, then they don't. But most of our work is blue label work. And so leaf casting is something we are doing, experimenting with and exploring. And I can write my name in leaf cast. But whether or not we actually want to do it for like a service I really don't, because leaf casting is much more art. It's not more art than science, but it's much more art than process. So many artistic decisions have to be made, book level, page level, spread level, split level, that the amount of energy it takes is not worth the value.
It just ends up being very low margin business compared to the rest of your business. And you're growing and you're busy. Why would you engage in low margin business? When you're growing and busy.
Economics, but really, it's that does take so much artistry. It's harder to train people to do it.
Yeah,
it's hard to have enough volume to get really good at it.
Just to like full circle back, Jason's question about this, like I would say, because they're two very different things. Like, no, Jason, like Barry, if this is a very successful thing and we see like on-site pressing kind of start to take off now, that is a very different thing than the sole people like me and Kenny that are doing heavy conservation as well as that kind of stuff too, which really what that ends up doing is making it for a lot of pressers. And I've heard multiple people that just press talk to me in the last couple of years about how the market is very saturated and how it's very difficult and how it seems that, you know, they're either trying to scale back and do kind of like what me and Kenny do, or maybe branch out and try to do what you're doing, Barry. But if they're doing the former, it's, I have to add more things to my arsenal because I can't just be doing this. I need to provide other additional things that people might need too. So, yeah, it just kind of depends on how you're trying to operate.
For us, it's people want the most valuable book they can get or the best grade they can get, which equates to value. For us, we actually, I don't care about the value or the grade. Is that horrible? I care about the beauty. It turns out that a more beautiful, defect-free book does get a higher grade and is more valuable. So we're all aligned. But what we do is we just remove problems. That's all we focus on. The fact that you get the good grade and then the fact that that turns into the value is that lucky, you know, chain of events. We are only focused on removing problems and creating a beautiful, gorgeous, defect-free, shine in the light, oh my God, can you believe this survived the ravages of time experience? That's it. And the rest of it is professionalism and communication that happens to be linked to results. So again, we should wind this down because I think we spent a lot of time. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. What the slide that Paul just showed you was kind of our marketing, our story. This is Golden's marketing. So this is Golden's sort of apart from their flyer, right? They're like, I mean, this is what they're telling their audience, right? Free on-site pressing and grading. For items over $3,000 consigned to Golden, or just free pressing for under $3,000. Though, again, I think it's a $200 minimum is what they're going to use as the criteria. Whether it's the before value or the after value, they'll be flexible depending on the book, I'm sure. You give them a Spidey, you know, 419, whatever, and it's only 209.8, they're probably not going anywhere with that. If you give them a Spidey 3,
don't let Rick hear you say that.
You know, yeah, but a Spidey 316, the first Venom cover, you know, I mean, they might do more for that and wait patiently for the tanning to go away. That book tans a lot. So this is like the last. This is like the service. This is the menu for the show. So this just lays out the offer, some pricing, and these are the rest of the risks. The first risk. So if you go like, we're doing deep cleaning and unlimited cleaning and pressing, can't really get you a conserve grade at the show, right? So we'll have to be very gentle. Right? We can't be too aggressive there. Things like that. There's a risk. You know, we'll be talking to people. To have a problem, just get dry clean. We're not going to dry clean only though valuable books because the books really need every problem removed to be more valuable. And so most of the time it comes back to stains and tanning and halos and things like that. So you have to treat these things some way with deep cleaning in most cases, little bits. It's like sous vide. I've used this analogy before. The finest, most particle controlled, most minimal, most gentle touches there are. And that's the trick to everything we do, is doing the least there is possible. And that's what you learn over time, or at least I did. I started to, I need enough pressure. I need enough heat. I need enough moisture. I need enough this. I need enough that. Turns out I didn't need any of that. What I needed was none of that, none of this, and almost a tiny bit of that. And so it's the least possible. The next risk under turnaround time, again, is that we won't hit the show turn. You know, we'll have to get it back to somebody. We'll have to ship it to them, or we'll have to ship it to CGC. The next thing is that it's more expensive. These prices are more expensive than waiting 8 weeks and mailing it to us, which is our normal experience, which we're still happy to support. People will hear this price and go, I don't really want that. We'll say, no problem. Go take our regular price. Here you go. And, you know, we'll take the books back and mail them to you when we're done. And not mail them to you on an accelerated schedule when we're done, mail them to you on a basic schedule. People are fine with that. They'll pay less. And it's the same with CGC. CGC raises all their prices for the show, which they have to. I mean, like anything else, it's a constrained resource. And they raise their FMVs too. The FMV at CGC is a point higher. So they charge 4% of value normally. Now they're charging 5% of value on site. So it's going to be very expensive to grade your higher end books on site, but they'll do it.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's more expensive, right? You have to bring a bunch of equipment and people there. Yeah. And, you know, when I go to a movie, I pay more for a Coke than when I buy it from the grocery store. And that's kind of, you know, that's the economics of the situation. I'm sure people understand that. Phillip, welcome to the show. I think the answer is here. You make, Barry, no distinction on the age of the book. It's all based on current value. And Jason.
Okay, yeah. So actually, we do that on our website, and people hate it. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
The age, the this, and our CDC's led the way on that. To be honest with you, like a lot of people still sell cleaning and pressing at like $10 to $15. That is the same price that Matt Nelson pioneered with the service 15 years ago. Like the people, I mean, again, comics people are known for long memories, right? The pricing and pressing is still the same as it was 15 years ago at the basic level, which is crazy because the work it takes and the cost of doing it, it's not like that. But anyway, so we sell at that because that's what the market is. So our basic services, we do have services like that, but not at the show because it's just too much work and there's too much special effort to do it.
So again, this is the pricing for on-site. It is higher than your normal pricing. Correct. And this is something you're pioneering at HeroesCon, and we wish you success. When it is successful, you'll be expanding it to other places. Phillip says deep clean on site seems tough. I agree with you. I think
I guess it is if you haven't.
Deep cleaning is tough regardless of whether you're on site or remote. I mean, these are difficult things, and doing them on site is even more difficult. This is kind of what the point of this show is, from my perspective, is Barry's really attempting to do something unprecedented and very difficult. And I wanted him on the show to walk us through what he's trying to accomplish, what efforts he's put into making it successful, and let people know that there are new options available to them. Because again, I think new options are just great for collectors. And also wish him the best. Wish him every success in this endeavor.
Well, I would say this, okay? If you can grow a warehouse of weed, then you can lighten a room full of comics. So I want to be clear that we are able to handle dozens and dozens and dozens of items to be deep cleaned at the very same time that they can be handled for pressing, and that the technology is totally available off the market today to do it all. What you have to do is combine the properties that actually work for vintage paper, which takes months and months and months, maybe years of R&D. And so that's really what's happened here, is we embraced the changes or the developments in the industry as soon as they came out. We went all in on them, despite the naysayers and the negativity. And we used that to try to say, well, how will we scale? So we're just grateful that we've been able to get enough good results at the grading company, get enough positive customer experiences that are repeat, fall into a great community like the Paul and team are putting together, and they've grown single-handedly, and watch it all coalesce. So we are taking a risk because we haven't done it in a convention center, and we haven't moved our office, take it apart, move the office, build it, break it down, and move it back.
Yeah.
So, but the other biggest risk is that we'll be down more days than we'd like. But beyond that, we're expecting very little risk at the book level. We're expecting more risk at the operational level, and we're optimistic that the learning curve will be not so steep because we're practicing now, just like any Olympic run. We're breaking stuff down, or a NASCAR pit crew. We take stuff apart, we put it back together every day in June until we get there.
Awesome. Well, I think we should wrap there. This has been super fun, super informative. I really enjoyed having you on, Barry. I really enjoyed hearing the backstory and everything you're trying to accomplish. And as I said earlier,
thank you.
Absolutely wish you the best in that endeavor. I'm going to be there on site, looking forward to seeing it in action. And I do want to thank, I want to thank all the viewers. This was a long show. I appreciate all of you being here for such a long time. Thanks to Salesboy Comics, Immaculate Comics, Collecting Chaos, Don Carter, and Salesboy a bunch more times. Thank you all so much. Have a great week, and I hope we'll see many of you maybe at HeroesCon. It'll be great.
In Charlotte.
All right. Until next time, take care of one another.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.